everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch,
Rob Jarrell,
and today we're going to recap this past Saturday's Showtime Championship Boxing, which in the main event we had Adrian Broner fighting Adrian Granados in a 10-round fight. We also had Lamont Peterson versus David Albanesian for the WBA, part of the WBA.
The regular title.
Titles.
Yeah.
And then we had Marcus Brown and Thomas Williams Jr. in a light heavyweight fight. Now for that one, we're not going to go into that one too much because it pretty much went the way we said it would in our preview video, with the exception of the foul in the second round, which was totally wrong. So that's about all we'll say about that. So we're going to go into Albanesian and Peterson, and Rob.
Okay, so this one, I thought it was pretty entertaining. You can see, and as always, Peterson started off fairly slow, tried to measure his opponent, see what he had, worked the jab a little bit, and I think with that one, Albanesian decided to start to take advantage of that. He was more active. To me, he had a little bit more spring in his step, but all his punches were not clean on Peterson, who showed really good movement, moving both laterally and front to back. But Albanesian would put his punches together really well. They didn't really have that much power in him. He's not a knockout artist, but you can see him really going in there, and I think a lot of times he did catch Lamont Peterson slipping, and he would switch from orthodox to southpaw quite a bit, but he was better offensively from the orthodox stance. As the fight went on, you could start to see Peterson coming on slowly, getting in his chest, and this is when it turned into that almost a phone booth fight, because both of them had high guards and they just let their hands go. They both did great body work, but you could tell Peterson really had the stronger punches because he would seriously load up on those punches and dig them to the body, which is more testament to Albanesian, because a lesser person would have went down by the 10th or 11th round.
Yeah, he showed us a lot in this fight. He cut a lot of great angles on Peterson. When Peterson tried to come in, he abandoned his jab very early in the fight and decided to just walk him down and try to bully him. And Albanesian was not playing that game. Like I said, he stepped off to either his right or his left and fired all combinations. And like Rob said, they were very fast combinations. They were crisp. And this is one of those things that where we were talking about in the preview video, where like not all of the sweet science is you boxing from the outside being cute.
Right.
These guys both showed that you can still be on the inside and be gritty and still display skills and different wrinkles and facets of the boxing martial art, other than what we're used to seeing or what we're told is boxing. So Peterson, like Rob said, was landing the harder shots. He was a lot more accurate with his shots. He placed them better, and you could see the work rate of Albanesian slowing down as the rounds went on. So the body work was having a tremendous effect on him, but like Rob said, he was very tough and resilient in not letting it break him. He bit, but he did not break. He stayed in the fight the entire time, and even though Peterson was doing the better work, the rounds were still close because Albanesian was doing flurries, especially later on in the round. It seemed like he was saving himself for the end of the round, try to possibly steal the round. But the body of work over the 3 minutes, how you're supposed to judge a round, favored Lamont Peterson more.
And yeah, this was a testament just not only physically but mentally, because the kind of pressure that Peterson brings is, again, he literally will walk to you and stay in your face. Yes. And to be able to weather the storm physically and mentally and not get mentally beat, because he wasn't really, Peterson had to try to beat whatever fight that Albanesian had in him out, and he could not do it. So while he did, I think he hurt Albanesian in the 11th and 12th. Yeah. He hurt him in both the 11 and the 12. The IBDCN was still there, still fighting, still letting his hands go, and making it just that, a fight. Peterson escaped with the win. He got the regular belt. Hopefully we see him in there against the winner of the Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman fight.
Yeah, because both Thurman and Peterson hold the WBA title. I think, what, is Thurman like the super champ or something like
The
that?
super champ.
I hate talking about all those different titles. But
it's really the WBA that causes the most problems.
yeah. So that's it for that one. Like Rob said, we'll see what happens next. Avnesian will probably end up on air again because he put on a good showing. And I'm excited to see who he faces off next with to remain a player in that division. So let's go into the main event where we had Adrian Broner taking on Adrian Granados, and what on paper looked to be a showcase fight for Broner. And we said it was a dangerous fight for him if he allowed it to be. And it turned out to be a dangerous fight because Granados showed up and fought the fight of his life. It wasn't that Broner let him in the fight or was lackadaisical in his approach to the fight, but Granados showed up and he was like, I don't give a damn, I'm trying to win this fight. And I prefer to win it by knockout, but if you stay up and I win a decision, that's fine too. And that was very impressive to me because he didn't have that former sparring partner mentality that you see in a lot of guys when they spar. They earn this respect with another guy. They just come up and show up and give the guy just enough work to come off with a victory and say, hey, we went a hard 10 rounds. He showed up to not only win, but win in spectacular fashion. What you got?
Yeah, if you don't know anything about Granados, a lot of his fights, especially against some really good names, have ended in draws or split decisions, which tells you
no different. This one was no different.
Right, he really came to fight. The scorecards were a little all over the place.
It was that kind of a fight though. Like there were a lot of close rounds where you would prefer the harder shots over the volume of shots because Granados was landing a lot, and Broner would land like one or two really hard punches, but they didn't really seem to affect Granados like they would like a Ashley Theophane or what's the guy, Alec Verdiev, I'm sorry. But, those guys ended up being stopped by him. And he even dropped Sean Porter late in their fight, even though he lost that fight. But it looked like he never got to Granados. Even though his punches had a lot of snap and it looked really showy because of how he was landing them, Granados just kept coming. And one of the things that we talked about in the preview video was him using the overhand right to score on Broner, and he was very successful with the straight right hand from distance. That was one of the things that I did not expect him to be able to be successful with, was being out in range, using his footwork. I know he used it to create angles on the inside, but he was also doing it on the outside as well, and that kept him competitive through the fight the entire time.
Yeah, he was able to take full advantage of the height and read advantage that he had over Broner. And fighting from the outside is smart. We saw the same thing with John Molina, I think it's Molina versus Provodnikov.
Yes.
Where he, inside fighter, blood and guts, what did he decide to do? Box and fight from a distance. And then do what he could if he was on the inside. This is exactly what Granados, but we turned up the work rate as well. And he was able to get inside and fight when need be. The other thing about this, again, he had the height and reach advantage, but we talked about the weight. It went from 142, which was originally contracted, to 147. I think that did help Broner. And then after the fight, he said he would stay at 147. I would suggest that he does not.
Yeah, he's got to get that discipline down and get down to 140 because the top level guys are going to have a field day with him.
Yeah, anyone that you consider a B plus fighter, or definitely A plus, are just going to take it to him. You have a guy like Kell Brook, Earl Spence, Garcia, Thurman, Peterson, who still, that name, and he is much bigger in my opinion than Broner.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an issue. He has to decide whether he can actually comfortably make it at 140, which is a discipline thing. It's not always just a cardio, endurance, or conditioning thing. And either way, Granados was definitely ready to go to 140, 142, 147. And that, again, that definitely helped him. I think it definitely helped him absorb some of those shots from Granados.
You mean from Broner?
No, helped Broner absorb shots from Granados.
Oh, because he was heavier.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. That's really it. Like, as far as bells and whistles, there were some, and most of it came from Granados. Broner says he hurt his hand very early in the fight. I think he said he hurt it in like the first round. And I think you may have seen a little bit of it, but for the most part, it was Granados taking advantage of Broner's not as great defense as people would suggest he should have because of his early comparisons to one Floyd Mayweather.
That's right.
And we're seeing that they're completely different fighters. And Granados took advantage of Broner switching stances, not orthodox to southpaw, but from being squared up to trying to switch into the shell when he got close. But he took advantage of those spaces there, and that's where he was scoring his best work.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't watched that fight, check that part out. That distance battle of Granados working from outside to inside and taking advantage of Broner switching his stance style and defensive posture, like switching from offensive posture to a defensive posture.
Right.
And getting tagged in the meantime. But once he got into that defensive posture, once he got into that shell and Granados was fully inside, he was able to score very well with the hooks and uppercuts, which carried him on to the victory. So, yeah, anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe so you can get our recaps and our breakdowns pre-fight. You can hit us up on any of our social networks. The links are down below. Anything you have you want to mention about the fight, hit us up in the comment section. If you guys have any questions, you can hit us up down there as well. And that's it. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.